Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So every so often a story comes along that I find particularly egregious, and this is definitely one of them. So we have a doctor who was part of a $10 million taxpayer-funded study who withheld the information, refused to publish the findings of the study, which happened over around 9 years, because they believed it didn't fit their narrative. It didn't fit the narrative that has been drummed into us for years. That puberty blockers, hormones are life-saving treatments. That these treatments prevent children from wanting to take their lives. These treatments prevent the unthinkable, that they should be provided to kids as a matter of urgency. And if they change their mind, well, it's reversible. People, including doctors, including so-called experts, have been asserting this for years. So a prominent doctor and trans right advocate admitted she deliberately withheld publication of a $10 million taxpayer-funded study on the effect of puberty blockers on American children after finding no evidence that they improve patients' mental health. So Dr. Johanna Olson-Kennedy told the New York Times that she believes the study would be weaponized by critics of transgender care for kids, and that the research could one day be used in court to argue we shouldn't use blockers. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Again, this is a classic example of the ideology superseding doing what is right, doing what is in the best interest of children. Your ideology has taken over where that's more important to you. Ooh, God forbid, we actually get the information we need to tell us whether we're doing the right thing.
A study examining the impact of puberty blockers on children is not being published for political reasons, according to the doctor in charge. The study, that's already 9 years old and received $10 million in taxpayer funding, isn't being released because the doctor says its findings might be weaponized in arguments against transgender medical treatment for kids.
So get this, a government-funded study about puberty blockers for transgender teens went unpublished. Why? Because of politics. At least that's what the lead doctor of the research told the New York Times. Dr. Johanna Olson-Kennedy spearheaded the $10 million research in 2015. It was intended to show providing trans adolescents with puberty blockers, drugs that prevent the development of breasts or a deepening voice, for instance, that would lessen depression and distress from gender dysphoria. Researchers recruited 95 trans teens from across the country, gave them these drugs, and watched what happened. Fast forward 9 years later, the results show not so good conclusions. In fact, there was no evidence whatsoever that puberty blockers improved the patient's mental health.
Dr. Olson-Kennedy, a prominent trans advocate in the medical community, admitted to the New York Times that she withheld the results of the study because of the overall political climate. Quote, "I do not want our work to be weaponized. It has to be exactly on point, clear and concise, and that takes time," end quote. Trans issues have been an issue on the campaign trail, with Donald Trump saying that Kamala Harris supports government-funded sex changes for inmates and illegal migrants.
The online community, including none other than Elon Musk, very riled up. The tech tycoon posted, "Olson-Kennedy is evil." Author J.K. Rowling of the Harry Potter franchise, who's been quite critical of the transgender movement, posted, quote, "We must not publish a study that says we're harming children because people who say we're harming children will use the study as evidence that we're harming children, which might make it difficult for us to continue harming children."
So critics, including one of Olson-Kennedy's fellow researchers on the study, said the decision flies in the face of research standards and deprives the public of really important science in a field where Americans remain firmly divided. We're talking about science that we're always told that we need to follow. We're always asked for studies, evidence. You talk about studies, you engage with these people, but ultimately they don't care. They don't care about the science, except for when the science fits into their agenda. And they will mold it into their agenda, or just basically not publish it. I don't like the results, so I'm going to hide the information. That's crazy. Does that not go against science? Are we not supposed to publish our findings regardless of what our hypothesis was or what we want the results to be? But these people will use their qualifications, use their status as doctors, as the professionals, to silence people and to put people down who don't agree with them. Well, where's your degree? What qualifications do you have? And we hear people say all the time, oh, it should be up to the doctors, the professionals, the so-called professionals, many of whom are doing this blindly too. So this study went on for 9 years with 95 kids, the average age of 11. I personally think this study is unethical. So they were put on these medications and they followed up after 2 years. So after following up with the youths for 2 years, the treatments did not improve the state of their mental health, which Olson-Kennedy chalked up to the kids being in really good shape, both when they started and concluded the 2-year treatment. So why would you think it was necessary for them to go through this study in the first place then if they were in really good shape? However, the Times points out that her rosy assessment contradicts earlier data recorded by the researchers, which found around 1/4 of the study participants were depressed or had thoughts of unaliving before receiving treatment. So the results also does not support the findings of a 2011 Dutch study, which is the primary scientific research cited by proponents of giving kids puberty blockers. The study of 70 kids found that children treated with puberty blockers reported better mental health and fewer behavioral and emotional problems. And this is the thing, there are all kinds of studies. I actually believe the majority of studies show that there's no evidence of any of these claims.
Research on the use of puberty blockers on children is limited, and there's a mixed bag of results. A study in Australia by the Sachs Institute Review found positive mental health outcomes outnumbered those with negative outcomes. The Journal of Sexual Medicine found puberty suppression may be considered valuable in the management of gender dysphoria in adolescents. A 4-year study in the UK found no evidence supporting transitioning drugs for children. And the American College of Pediatricians says there is not a single long-term study to demonstrate the safety or efficacy of puberty blockers. More than 120,000 children ages 6 to 17 were treated for gender dysphoria from 2017 to 2021. Puberty blockers have not received FDA approval to treat gender dysphoria. In a Washington Post poll, 68% of Americans are against providing puberty blockers to children 10 to 14 years old. 58% are against hormone treatments for those 15 to 17 years old.
And there just simply isn't enough studies, there isn't enough data regardless. So Olson-Kennedy is one of the country's leading advocates for providing gender-affirming care to adolescents, and regularly provides expert testimony in legal challenges to state bans on such procedures, which has taken root in more than 20 states. Clearly, she has a vested interest in pushing the idea that children benefit from such procedures. It seems like a lot of her career seems to be based on that. She then flat out admitted she was afraid the lack of mental health improvements born out of the study could one day be used in court to argue we shouldn't use blockers. Even Boston College's clinical and research psychologist Amy Tishelman, who was one of the original researchers on the study, pointed out the obvious contradiction in withholding scientific evidence on the grounds that it doesn't match an expected conclusion. I understand the fear about it being weaponized, but it's really important to get the science out there. No change isn't necessarily a negative finding. There could be a preventative aspect to it. We just don't know without more investigation. And this is the mind of somebody who's thinking objectively. Erica Anderson, a clinical psychologist and a transgender youth expert, told the Post she was shocked and disturbed about the decision to withhold publication of such vital research. We're craving information about these medical treatments for gender questioning youth. Dr. Olson-Kennedy has the largest grant that's ever been awarded in the US on the subject and is sitting on data that would be helpful to know. It's not her prerogative to decide based on the results that she will or won't publish them. It's contrary to the scientific method. You do research and then you disclose what the results are. You don't change them, you don't distort them, and you don't reveal or not reveal them based on the reactions of others. You report as scientists what you've learned. These psychologists probably lean towards this whole gender ideology because they study transgender youth, but they both acknowledge that there's little data out there and this actually would have been helpful. Why hide it? Why not see it as a positive thing that you've actually provided more information to this whole debate? You're giving your colleagues more data to work with. Why not take that approach? But the fact that she's hiding them, to me, proves that she knows that there's no evidence of these claims that these doctors have been making for years. No evidence whatsoever. When pressed by the outlet for an explanation for the seemingly contradictory findings, Olson-Kennedy attributed it to data averages and said she was still analysing the full data. Even her colleagues have questioned her integrity and her credibility now. So in the UK, we had the Cass report, which means the NHS has disallowed puberty blockers for children following a 4-year review conducted by independent researcher Dr. Hilary Cass. Her report found that for most young people, a medical pathway would not be the best way to manage their gender-related distress. Over in Finland, an expert on pediatric gender medicine said in a newspaper interview that 4 out of 5 gender-questioning children will eventually grow out of it and accept their bodies even without medical intervention. So hearing this is absolutely shocking. And how many more studies and findings have been hidden? How much more information is actually out there, but we don't know about it because it doesn't fit the narrative. Dr. Hilary Cass is independent. She did this research as an independent. She didn't have any hidden agenda, and she received backlash just for publishing the findings. But she published those findings to put more information out there for her colleagues, for people who make these decisions that affect children, that decide on their treatment. And she said that more holistic approaches are suitable rather than pumping kids with medication and allowing them to have procedures that are unnecessary. And that sounds exactly what Olson-Kennedy is afraid of. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.